Hey, good afternoon, everyone. It's me, Nisi. Wanted to come to you guys today to talk about affirmations. I want to thank all of our new members, and I want to thank everyone within our Facebook study group. Thank you guys for taking the time out of your busy schedules to allow me to come into your world. I am going to be reading from the Children of the Law of One, Lost Teachings of Atlantis, and I'm actually going to be toggling between several different chapters. So the first part I'm going to read is a poem that was outlined in chapter 12. It's called The Path. I apologize if it's kind of windy and you hear the cars. I don't have a microphone that can plug into my cell, so I am going to try to speak up as loud as possible. So if it appears like I'm shouting, I apologize. Okay, so the first poem that I'm going to read is from chapter 12. It's called The Path. It says, "Created we the path upon our separation from the infinite one, the way out is the way back. One way back. Walk must we in our own excrement. Created we all obstacles, all must be met as we follow the road home. The path is to return to the one, is death to the separate self. A great fight it will wage, great pain it will inflict. Only those who have learned the greater pain lies in separation from the one will choose the spiritual path. Many paths there are, all spiritual paths lead to the one as closer you return. Recognize you will, your true self, your true family. Recognize you will the face of a stranger. Judge not the path of another. Learn to understand that you may not understand the path of another. Judge the path of another only to judge and determine your own path. Never condemn another. Condemn only actions. The path takes us through walls of fire burning us away, sharp teeth ripping away our flesh. Why then am I not harmed? The path is beset with traps. The wind flowers draw us with their sweet perfume. Thorns prick at our feet. Mud drags us down above and below. Rocks loosen and fall. Walk in the footsteps of those who have found the way before you. The ease of difficulty one experiences while walking the path to oneness is directly determined by the degree of their humility and unselfish love. Pain and pleasure are swings in the arc of the pendulum. To the degree the pendulum swings into pleasure, it will swing into the same degree of pain. Many paths present themselves that lead to pleasure. With free will, we will choose. Choose not pleasure, and you will create not pain. Choose not pleasure, and pain will chase you not. Accept the little pleasures that come to you. Endure the pain that may come to you with long-suffering patience. Hear me, O man. Turn from the darkness of night. Turn towards the love of night. Know that your mind leads your direction. Turn from the thoughts that lead you astray. Turn to the thoughts of giving and light. They lead you to oneness, not darkness of night. Find not the great path in power and glory. Find it, you will, in the dust at your feet, with head bowed in regret and humility. Beg you must with all hearts. Ask them, the universal one, to guide you. With heart that is ready to serve all it shows. Pray that your will be that of the one. Pray the one send to you one who is one, to show you the light and illuminate your soul. Seek God first, and all else will come to you. I'm going to repeat that one more time. Seek God first, and all else will come to you. As you walk your path, let this always be your prayer to the universal spirit. Everyone is on a path, and we can all agree that. But not everyone is on what we might call a spiritual path. A spiritual path is when the direction of your path is one that can finally lead you in the direction of spirit rather than materiality, lead you to unselfish love rather than selfishness, lead us or you to the universal consciousness rather than separate consciousness. We are all learning as we live our lives on a daily basis. We're all learning and growing. There will always be given an opportunity to learn, regardless of the type of path. Karma is constantly being created, and life keeps trying to teach us something by providing us with our own self lessons that explore in all faces or all facets. And I can totally agree with that. It says also, it's unfortunate when it is ignored, because suffering can cause us to be introspective and really take a hard look, a deep look at whys of our life experiences. After we have had enough suffering to open our eyes, we realize we need to change. Therein lies the value of pain. So basically, I'm going to go back and read this one part because this is a key to what I'm going to say next. So let me read it again. So it says, so only when people are on their spiritual path are they learning. They are always given the opportunity to learn regardless of the type of path. Karma is constantly being created, and life keeps trying to teach us something by providing us with our own self-created lessons that explode in our faces. Getting taught in that way has been called the school of hard knocks. But while everyone suffers the slings and arrows of life experiences, most people ignore these lessons which are being constantly presented to us. So, for example, you may be going through something over and over again. And I will use me as an example. There's an issue that I have that I am continuing to experience it over and over again. And what do they say? The definition of insanity is when you continue to do something over and over again. Not saying I'm insane, but I am now at the point of my understanding and of my discernment that I see that I do need to make a change. And I am walking towards that change, or working towards that change. And I feel like for me, I have experienced this one issue, as it says in the book, the School of Hard Knocks. And I realized that the only way I'm going to be able to get past this level or get past this problem is to examine it and deal with it, and not kick the can down the curb or kick it down the street, to just blatantly ignore it, know that I have an issue and not address it, and continuing to live my life in this path it's not causing me to grow. I'm at a circle. I keep continuing going over and over and over the same thing, and I know now that I cannot. And so I'm at that point where I am making steps to change that. So, and I mean, if you have an alcohol problem, drug addiction, a sex addiction, a shopping addiction, whatever it may be, or it could just be your life choices. You know, when you say School of Hard Knocks, that's what I'm referring to, or what I'm thinking of when I read these passages in this book. So it says, but while everyone suffers the slings and arrows of life experiences, most people ignore these lessons which are being constantly presented to us. And I could use myself as an example because I've had these lessons presented to me and I've been blatantly ignoring them. I'm going to say at this point I was willfully ignoring them because I know that there was a problem and I wasn't addressing it. So now I'm addressing it. This is unfortunate when it is ignored, because suffering can cause us to be introspective and really take a hard look, a deep look at whys of our life experiences. After we've had enough suffering to open our eyes, we realize we need to change. Therein lies the value of pain. So, for me, I have experienced some pain from this, but I know now that because of my age and where I am in my life path, I want to change. So I understand what needs to be done and what I need to do. So I am on that path to making that change. Now, the next paragraph, it drops down, and I'm skipping pages. It says, the spiritual seeker makes a series of steps before he even sets foot on his true spiritual path back to the oneness with the universal consciousness, universal mind, spirit, God, whatever you want to call it, the one, I say, creator of all. Obviously, they must first realize that they need to change and need to break free from old programming and behavior patterns, which, and use myself as an example, I understand I have this behavior. I need to change it. Next, they need to realize they can change regardless of how difficult or impossible it may seem. They must realize that they have free will and are only a slave to their programming and selfish desires so long as they allow themselves to be. Once a person gets to this point, then they must decide how and when they are going to go about changing. They must choose their path and choose to stop walking their own path in order to start up a new one. This process includes taking responsibility, taking real responsibility for their own life, for their own life direction, for a new life, and even more importantly, the ultimate responsibility, serving God and flowing with the universal will. Now, I wanted to cover affirmations and visualizations, but this is leading into the affirmations. I realize I don't want this video to be too long because the attention span of most people, and I want to keep it short, so I'm going to have to do a second video on visualization. So I'm just going to go over the affirmations piece. So in the book, it talks about the Great Affirmation, which I thought was very, it just hit the nail on the head for me. And this is something that I'm going to incorporate into my daily life. It says, as we walk our path, we should not let our daily affirmation or prayer to the Infinite One be. We should let our daily affirmation or prayer to the Infinite One be this: your will be done, not mine, in me and through me. Read it one more time. Let it sink in. Your will be done, not mine, in me and through me. And we should not just say it. We must feel it. We must live it. We must embrace it. Practice this, and one eternal day, you may find that God's will be your will as one, no longer separate. You will realize I am. And your actions, your lifestyle, your being will reflect this. Your life will be as one, giving like an endless stream of universal love, flowing forth rather than empty. Short-lived, endless circle of wanting and trying to get, and fear trying to avoid, is what it says in parentheses. And I found that to be, it hit home for me, because I needed to see that. I needed to read that. And that is something that I am meditating on and taking that in. This book has really, really opened my eyes. I have gotten to the point where I listen to the audio version, and I also read some, and I go through and I highlight. And as you can tell, I have highlighted some of the passages in the book, and I have tabs, and there is actually a workbook too that I'm going to order this week and start working on it. As we go deeper into it, I want to cover some of the key aspects. I don't want to cover every single chapter. I've done quite a few, but the things that really drive home to me, I mean, the whole entire book is good. I mean, I could sit and do a reading every single day, but I don't want to do that, because I want you guys to explore and have an opportunity to listen to what I'm saying, but also read the chapters yourself. And if anything, post a short video or, respond. I'm sorry, you guys see the wind blowing behind me. Papers. It's beautiful out here. My ponytail's all over my head. It's beautiful out here. It's gorgeous. But, all right, so chapter 16, I'm skipping around, talks about affirmations, and I'm going to read this. The subconscious mind being very much like a computer, needs to have a program to run. Okay? The programming there determines most of the mental and physical aspects of your being. The program has had no conscious programmer. It has been programmed from birth by a flood of external influences, mostly negative. Okay? It is programming of the biocomputer of yourself, a separate entity in a world full of separate entities who are all looking out for number one, always seeking self-substantiation. Remember, actions follows thoughts. Let that sink in. Actions follow thought. The mind is the builder. Everything is the result of mere thoughts. Thus, it is vital to be able to communicate with and alter the programming that affects the mind. It all begins and ends here. That's why it is so important and why it is taught that so much attention must be given within these teachings. And it is true. I have to admit it. If you realize the importance of this and decide to take control of your programming and thoughts, there are specific tools that can help you do so. And so I'm going to read this short poem, and then we're going to go through a few of the affirmations that you should want to do in the morning, in the evening, and before you go to sleep at night. And then we're going to wrap it up. Okay? Try not to keep you long-winded. I'm already almost at 20 minutes, so 16 minutes. I'm just trying to keep this short, so I'm going to read a little bit faster. Thank you for joining me, and thank you for having patience with me. Okay, it says, make it real in your mind, and your mind will make it so. Relive actions in the realms of the mind, making it right to repeat it not. Always speak to your mind in a manner that shows it what you desire to achieve as the positive outcome. And speaking to your mind, never fight the negative with itself. In a direct struggle, good will lose to evil. Make strong in the good, and evil will be gone. Be ever vigilant in attending to your mind, to your thoughts. Turn from your negative thoughts. Use your free will. Dwell only on positive thoughts, and success is assured. Use not powers of mind, but for developing virtue and to serve universal will. Affirmations are positive statements or directions you make to yourself in order to bring about changes in the subconscious behavior patterns to whatever you will them to be. Using an affirmation is like planting a seed in the fertile soil of your subconscious mind. And like a seed, it needs daily tending or it may die. For the reason, affirmations are tools that are used daily and frequently by those who wish to change. Ask God for guidance for affirmations, or use them during meditation, or just think about negative selfish traits you have that you know you need to change, or positive traits you would like to acquire. Now, I dropped down because that section talks about finding a teacher. During the time of Atlantis, of course, there were many great teachers. Grandmaster Thoth, or as he has been reincarnated to be called Yeshua, or we call him Jesus Christ now. There were many great teachers that have been here, many avatars that have taken on form to teach us the path and the way. And as I've said before many times, this earth that we are on is a university. It is a training ground. It is a school. And so I have learned over the past lifetime and over several years now that we're on a destruction course. And so the very basic thing that we need to do as our own being, as of right now, our separate selfish selves, is to reprogram our mind and to help one another and to love one another and to be good to one another. Not just providing lip service. I mean, actually doing what needs to be done And this is, I can tell you from reading this book, it has been a struggle, a painful struggle for me to see the mirror on the wall of how I see myself and the things that I need to change about myself, my separate selfish self. And my son actually points out some of those things, and I point out things to him as well. But in the course, no one wants to be criticized or taught a lesson. We always want to think that at some point when you get older, you don't want anybody telling you how to live your life or what you need to change. But really and truly, this book will help you take a closer look at yourself, more so than what I have read in many other books. Even reading this and going back to scriptures in the ancient text, the Hebrew text, the Bible, the Christian Bible, I am now able to see it in a different eyes, in a different way. And so the basic one thing that I want to drive across this video when I'm talking is about the affirmations, the programming that we need to be careful on. And I apologize, there's a life flight helicopter that's going to come flying through here in a second. So it probably will get kind of loud. I hear it overhead. I did not realize how much negativity that goes on a daily basis with TV programming and radio programming, that I am now at the point where I turn off the TV and I really do not watch it. I catch it at a right time to where I can see the weather. And when my husband comes home from work, he may watch his show that he likes to watch, but I limit the time that I do watch TV now. I do sci-fi movies for research because I am conscientious of the fact of the programming that is going on with TV. And so I am trying to get to a point where I don't even watch it anymore at all. Only for key things is what I'm doing now. So, back to the affirmations and the positive things that you need to tell yourself, and you need to bring this about on a daily basis. And some of us have a lot of issues. I mean, some of us have a lot of negative self-talk in our heads. I mean, I used to have a lot more than what I have now, okay? Through age and time and lifestyle change and things, I have, changed my thought pattern, my programming. Be careful what you put in your mind. Be careful what you take in your environment, because you could be in a negative energy vortex, bloodsuckers, I like to call them, energy vampires. And so if you're constantly having to be in a relationship where you are being drained all the time and you're trying to take 5 steps up and somebody's pulling you 6 steps back, you're in the negative. Or you're taking 5 steps up and somebody's taking 3 steps, you're only at 2 steps. You know what I'm saying? You're constantly having to work through this endless cycle. And so the subconscious mind takes all that in. And believe it or not, you have to start catching yourself when you go into that thought of being negative about what you're saying to yourself. You have to stop it. You have many minds. You have too many minds in your head. And you really do. You have a lot of minds that go on. In traffic, you could be sitting there thinking about what you're going to have for dinner, or did I finish this report from my manager, or I've got to pick up the kids, or I've got to go see my boyfriend, or I've got to go see my ex. And so, I said ex. My boyfriend, your ex-husband, whatever. You have something you have to take care of with your kid's father or your baby mama, or, you're prioritizing all these things in your head, and you're having to deal with stuff that you don't want to have to deal with. I have a good friend who's going through a divorce, and that's what's popping in my head right now. This person is having to deal with a lot of crap, arguing over a freaking pots and pans, or a pressure cooker, or a crock pot. I mean, and so when you're trying to establish yourself and you're trying to move forward on a positive path, there will always be that one thing or one person that will, sorry, I heard a bee. There'll always be that one person or that one instance that will crop up. And so you just got to be mindful. I don't want to harp on that anymore. It's it just brings up all these thoughts in my head as I'm talking and making this point that I myself have to really work on the negative self-talk, which I do, and I'm sure that you guys do too. But the affirmations part is what's key when you first wake up in the morning and throughout the day. So it says, until you are enlightened, if you look sincerely and hard enough at yourself, you will usually find some fault of your own at work in any argument. Yeah. Regardless of whether the origin of the argument was your fault or what the issue the argument was about, or whether or not the claimed issue was your fault. For instance, you might be in an argument in which someone else is totally wrong, okay? But you became negative and stopped unselfishly loving. If you have realized enough that you finally understand that there is absolutely no reason good enough to stop loving unselfishly, then you should do an affirmation, something like this, regardless of what the argument was about or what the outcome of it was. I am always unselfishly loving. That's what it says in parentheses. But for it to help, you need to really feel that and mean that. When you say it, not just mouth it, or it will not be an effective tool. See, now that tells you right there, you know, I'm growing, I'm learning, and you guys are seeing this on camera. You know, it just goes back to being a separate selfish person or separate selfish self, because you are not with attunement of the creator of all. You're not in sync with the universal mind or universal consciousness. And it says, consider this also, affirmations to be effective must always be stated as a positive result rather than trying to negate a negative. For instance, in the above example of an argument, the affirmation was not and should not be, I am not negative, I do not get angry, or such. It needs to be phrased in a positive way, something like, I am positive, I am humble, and unselfishly loving. Do you see the difference? In other words, you always say the good thing that you want to achieve and never use a double negative. And a lot of us use a double negative, including myself. I have been guilty of doing that. Never even give energy to the negative trait that you wish to change, lest you actually feed the negative. Instead, you give energy to the positive trait that will supersede the negative. Always remember that the subconscious mind is something like a mindless robot. It always obeys and understands things literally. It doesn't figure things out, interpret, or know what you mean. Thus, affirmations should always be stated as already accomplished fact, such as, I am a loving, humble person, rather than stating them as unaccomplished possible futures events like I will be blank, 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 or I will be a more loving and unselfish person. You have to state it, you have to own it, and you have to say it, and you have to mean it. I mean, really. Or I will be going to be blank, blank, blank. So you have to state it with clear intentions. Or things like, I would like to be more, I don't know, more creative, or, you know, more respectful, more responsive, more loving, more attentive. Wording affirmation in those words either just won't make sense to be the subconscious, or it tells the subconscious minds that is some change that will take place in the future. And since the future is always in the future, it actually prevents the changes from ever taking place. Because we are always in the now. That's a good point to make. For instance, let's say you were a robot who was holding a spoon and I wanted you to drop your spoon. I would need to figure out exactly what to say to you to make you drop your spoon. If I know that you only take my words literally, just as the subconscious mind does, then I need to phrase my words to you properly, or you won't understand what I want you to drop the spoon, and you won't do it. So if I said to you, you will be dropping the spoon, and that literally means to you that you will be dropping the spoon. Not that you should drop it now. So what happens? You hold on to it, waiting for the time in the future where you will be dropping it. But if I say drop the spoon, or you are dropping the spoon, you would see it.